Hello, Views of the Future, and welcome to the first episode of Storytime with Endragh. So this week, or this amount of time, I'm going to be reading my favorite book ever. I had to make sure I was in camera. Color Magic by Terry Pratchett. He's my favorite author. Also, I'm surprised that this book says author of Snuff. You can't really see it. Hold on. There you go. Author of Snuff. But Snuff is after this. I think. Anyways, hold on. They might have updated. Oh, they did update. Sweet. Yeah, I don't know. I'll look later, but I'm pretty sure Snuff is after this in this series. Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, it's advertising an older book for the first book of the series. Alright. Anyways, this is my favorite author of all time, so of course I had to start with him. You can't see it, but I do have a poster of all the books. I'll show it at the end. I promise. Alright. If you want to see the description of the book, it's going to be in the description of the video. Not the quotes, but just the book description. So I'm not going to read that out just because of that. That's how it's going to go from now on. Whoop. Do I need to do the forward? Yep. No, this book doesn't have chapters at all. Well, it does, but not officially chapters. It's kind of like what's happening in the book at the time. So I'm not going to read chapter titles. If a book does have chapters, I will read the chapter titles. I mean, might go by chapters, but right now we're just going to read them out. This is the prologue, by the way. I guess. Oh yeah, it is. 4 pages long. In a distant and second-hand set of dimensions, in an astral plane that was never meant to fly, the curling star mist wavers and parts. See, great attune, the turtle comes, swimming slowly through the interstellar gulf. Hydron frost on his, this is why I'm reading slowly, ponderous limbs, his huge and ancient shell pocketed with meteor craters. Those sea-sized eyes that are crusted with rhenium and astro dust, he stares fixedly at the destination. In a brain bigger than a city, with geologically slowness, With geologically slowness, he thinks only of the weight. Most of the weight is, of course, accounted for by Brilil, Tubla, Great Tupon, and Jerkin, the 4 giant elephants upon whose broad and star-tanned shoulders the disk of the world rests, garlanded by the long waterfalls at its vast circumference, and domed by the baby blue vault of heaven. Oh God. Astrolophosology has been, as yet, unable to establish what they think about. The Great Turtle was a mere hypothesis until the day the small inhabited kingdom of Krull, whose rim-most mountains project over the rimfall, built a gantry and pulley arrangement at the tip of the most precarious crag and lowered several observers over the edge in a quartz-windowed brass vessel to peer through the mist veil. The early astrozoologists, hauled back from their long dangles by enormous teams of slaves, were able to bring back much information about the shape and nature of a tune and the elephants, but this did not resolve fundamental questions about the nature and purpose of the universe. For example, what was a tune's actual sex? This vital question, said the astrozoologists, with mounting authority, would not be answered until a large and more powerful gantry was constructed for a deep space vessel. In the meantime, they could only speculate about the revealed cosmos. There was, for example, the theory that a tune had come from nowhere and would continue at an uniform crawl, or steady gait, into nowhere, for all time. This theory was popular among academics. An alternative, favored by those of religious persuasion, was that a tune was crawling from the birthplace to the time of mating, as were all the stars in the sky, which were, obviously, also carried by giant turtles. When they arrived, they would briefly and passionately mate for the first and only time, and from that fiery union, new turtles would be born to carry a new pattern of worlds. This was known as the Big Bang hypothesis. Yes. Thus, it was that a young Cosmochelian of the Steady Gate faction tested a new telescope with which he hoped to make a measurement of the this word is split in half. Presides Albus of Great Tune's right eye was on this eventful evening, the first outsider to see the smoke rise hubward from the burning of the oldest city in the world. Later that night, he became so engrossed in his studies he completely forgot about it. Nevertheless, he was the first. There were others. That was the prologue. Oh my god, so many long words. This is why I need this, people. Fire roared through the by-functioning city of Anka Morpork. Where it licked the wizard's quarters, it burned blue and green. And was even laced with strange sparks of the eighth color, Ocarinian, where its outer riders found their way into the vats and oil stored all along Merchant Street. It progressed in a series of blazing fountains and explosions. In the streets of the perfume blenders, it burned with a sweetness. Where it touched bundles of rare and dry herbs in the storerooms of the drug masters, it made men go mad and talk to God. By now the whole of downtown Morpork was alight, and the richer and worthier citizens of Anka on the far banks were bravely responding to the situation by feverishly demolishing the bridges, But already the ships in Morpork docks, laden with grain, cotton, and timber, and coated with tar, were blazing merrily, and their mornings burnt to ashes. Were breasting the river Anka on the ebb tides, igniting riverside palaces and bowers as they drifted like drowning fireflies towards the sea. In any case, sparks were riding the breeze and touching down far across the river and hitting gardens and remote rich yards. The smoke from the merry burning rose miles high in a wind-sculpted black column that could be seen across the whole of the Discworld. Yes, it's called Discworld. I like it. It was certainly impressive from the cool, dark hilltops a few leagues away, where two figures were watching with considerable interest. The taller of the pair was chewing on a chicken leg and leaning on a sword that was only marginally shorter than the average man. If it wasn't for the air of wary intelligence about him, it might have been supposed that he was a barbarian from the Hubland's waste. His partner was much shorter and wrapped from head to toe in a brown cloak. Later, when he has occasion to move, it will be seen that he moves lightly, cat-like. The two had barely exchanged a word in the last 20 minutes, except for a short and inconclusive argument as to whether a particular powerful explosion had been the oil-bond store or the workshop of Kerbals the Enchanter, mostly hinging on the fact. Money hinging on the fact, sorry. Now the big man finished gnawing at the bone and tossed it into the grass, smiling ruefully. Litter. There goes all those little alleyways, he said. I like them. All the treasure houses, said the small man. He added thoughtfully, do gems burn? I wonder. 'Tis said they're kin to coal. All the gold melting and running down the gutters, said the big man, ignoring him, and all the wine boiled in the barrels. There were rats, said the brown companion. Rats, I'll grant you. It was no place to be in high summer. That too. One can't help feeling, though. Momentary? He trailed off, then brightened. We owed old Frederick at the Crimson... Hold on. We owed old Fredor at the Crimson Leech 8 silver pieces, he added. The little man nodded. They were silent for a while as a whole new series of explosions carved a red line across a hither dark section of the greatest city in the world. Then the big man stirred. Weasel? Yes. I wonder who started it. The small swordsman known as the Weasel said nothing. He was watching the road in the ruddy light. Few had come that way since the deposit gates had been one of the first to collapse in a shower of white-hot embers, but two were coming up it now. The Weasel's eyes, always at their sharpest in gloom and half-light, made out the shapes of two mounted men and some sort of low beast behind them. Doubtless a rich merchant escaping with as much treasure as he could lay frantic hands on. The Weasel said as much to his companion, who sighed. The state of footpad ill suits us, said the barbarian. But as you say, times are hard, and there are no soft beds tonight. He shifted his grip on his sword, and as the leading rider drew near, stepped out onto the road with a hand held up, and his face set in a grin nicely calculated to reassure yet threaten. Your pardon, sir, he began. The rider reins in the horse and draws back his hood. The big man looked into a face blotched with significant burns and punctured by tufts of singed beard. Even the eyebrows had gone. Bugger off, said the face. You're Brave the Hublander, aren't you? I'm going to pause here for a second because this is something Terry Pratchett does. There's a itty bitty star there, and all of this extra writing is that itty bitty star, which I will not be reading currently. It's his side notes. I might do I don't know what I'm gonna do. I might do a side thing afterwards just for him because. So it's this section, that whole half page that I showed you, but then it's also a little bit underneath on the bottom here too. So he does side notes pretty much. So I might just do a side note thing? I don't know. It doesn't seem... It's talking mostly about what a Hublander is. But I'm going to leave it out for now. But that's a thing he does. And sometimes the side notes will have a side note. Well, if I see one, I'll point it out to you as well. Barbed, that's his name, not Braved. Barbed became aware that he had fumbled the initiative. Just go away, will you, said the rider. I just haven't got time for you. Do you understand? He looked around and added, that goes for your shadow-loving flea-bag partner, too, wherever he's hiding. The Weasel stepped up to the horse and peered at the disheveled figure. Why, it's Rincewind the Wizard, isn't it? He said in a tone of delight. Meanwhile, filing the wizard's description of him in his memory for leisurely vengeance. I thought I recognized the voice. Barbed spat and sheathed his sword. It was seldomly worth tangling with wizards. They so rarely had any treasure worth speaking of. He talks pretty big for a guttered wizard, he muttered. You don't understand at all, said the wizard warily. I'm so scared of you, my spine has turned to jelly. It's just that I'm suffering from an overdose of terror right now. I mean, when I've got over that, then I'll have time to be decently frightened of you. The Weasel pointed towards the burning city. You been through that? He asked. The wizard rubbed a red raw hand across his eyes. I was there when it started. See him? Back there? He pointed back down the road to where his traveling companion was still approaching, having adopted a method of riding that involved falling out of the saddle every few seconds. Well, Weasel said. He started it, said Rincewind simply. Barbed and Weasel looked at the figure, now hopping across the road with one foot in the stirrup. Fire Razor, is he? Barbed said at last. No, said Rincewind, not precisely. Let's just say that if complete and utter chaos were lightning, then he'd be the sort to stand on top of a hilltop in a thunderstorm, wearing wet copper armor and shouting, all gods are bastards! Got any food? There's some chicken, said Weasel, in exchange for a story. What's his name? Said Barbed, who tended to lag behind in conversations. Twoflower. Twoflower, said Barbed. What a funny name. You, said Rincewind, dismounting, do not know the half of it. Chicken, you say? Deviled, said Weasel. The wizard groaned. That reminds me, added the Weasel, snapping his fingers. There was a really big explosion about, half an hour ago. That was the oil bond store going up, said Rincewind, wincing at the memory of the burning rain. Weasel turned and grinned expectantly at his companion, who grunted and handed over a coin from his pouch. Then there was a scream from the roadway, cut off abruptly. Rincewind did not look up from the chicken. One of the things he can't do. He can't ride a horse, he said. Then he stiffened, as if sandbagged by a sudden recollection, giving a small yelp of terror and dashing into the gloom. When he returned, the being called Twoflower was hanging limply over his shoulder. It was small and skinny and dressed very oddly in a pair of knee-length breeches and a shirt in such a violent and vivid conflict of colors that Weasel's fastuous eyes were offended even in the half-light. No bones broken by the feels of things, said Rincewind. He was breathing heavily. Brav winked at Weasel and went to investigate the shape that they assumed was a pack animal. He'd be wise to forget it, said the wizard, without looking up from his examination of the unconscious Twoflower. Believe me, a power protects it. A spell? Said Weasel, squatting down. No, but magic of a kind, I think. Not the usual sort. I mean, it can turn gold into copper while at the same time it is still gold. It makes men rich by destroying their possessions. It allows the weak to walk fearlessly among thieves. It passes through the strongest door to leech the most protected treasures. Even now it has me enslaved, so that I must follow this madman willy-nilly and protect him from harm. It's stronger than you, Barbed. It is, I think, more cunning even than you, Weasel. What is it called, then, this mighty magic? Rincewind shrugged. In our tongue, it's called reflected sound as of underground spirits. Is there any wine? Yeah, I don't get that either. But yeah, that's its name. They call it something else later. You must know that I am not without artificial... See, this is my problem. You must know that I am not without artificial where magic is concerned, said Weasel. Only last year did I, assisted by my friend there, part the notoriously powerful Archmage of Umitary from his staff, his belt of moon jewels, and his life, in that approximate order. I do not fear the reflect sounds of underground spirits, of which you speak. However, he added, you engage my interest. Perhaps you can care to tell me more? Barb looked at the shape on the road. It was closer now, and clearer in the pre-dawn light. It looked for all the world like a box on legs, he said. I'll tell you about it, said Rincewind. If there's any wine, that is. Down in the valley there was a roar and a hiss. Someone more thoughtful than the rest had ordered to be shut. The big river gate that were at the point where Enka flowed out of the Twin Cities, denied its usual ingress. The river had burst in banks and was pouring down the fire-ravaged streets. Soon the content of flames became a series of islands, each one growing smaller as the dark tide rose, and up from the city of fumes and smoke rose a broiling cloud of steam, covering the stars. Weasel thought that it looked like some dark fungus or mushroom. That was just the introduction. Alright, had to take a breath and stop. Yeah, it's a little bit worded, but I still love it. Alright. The first line. The twin cities of proud Anka and pristine Moorpork, of which all the other cities of time and space are, as it were, mere reflections, had stood many assaults in its long and crowded history, and has always risen to flourish again. So the fire and its subsequential flood, which destroyed everything left that was not flammable, and added a particularly noisome flux to the survivors' problems, did not mark its end. Rather, it was a fiery punctuation mark, a coal-like comma, or a salamander semicolon, in a continued story. Several days before the events, a ship came up the Anka on the dawn tide and fetched up among many others in the maze of waivers and docks on the Moorpork shore. It carried a cargo of pink pearls, milk nuts, hummus, some official letters for the Patrician of Ankmore, and a man. Anka? It was the man who engaged the attention of Blind Hugh, one of the beggars on early duty at Pearl Dock. He nudged Cripple Waugh in the ribs and pointed wordlessly. Now the stranger was standing on the quayside, watching several straining seamen carry a large, brass-bound chest down the gangplank. Another man, obviously the captain, was standing beside him. There was about the seaman, every nerve in Blind Hugh's body, which tended to vibrate in the presence of even a small amount of impure gold at 50 paces, screamed into his brain, the air of one anticipating immediate enrichment. Sure enough, when the chest had been deposited on the cobble, the stranger reached into a pouch, and there was a flash of a coin, several coins, gold. Blind Hugh, his body twangling like a hazel rod in the presence of water, whistled to himself. Then he nudged Waugh again, and sent him scurrying off down a nearby alley into the heart of the city. When the captain walked back onto his ship, leaving the newcomer looking fairly bewildered on the Quincy side, Blind Hugh snatched up his begging cup and made his way across the street with an grating leer. At the sight of him, the stranger started to fumble urgently with his money pouch. "Good day to thee, sir," Blind Hugh began, and found himself looking up into a face with 4 eyes in it. He turned to run. Exclamation point? Yeah, it's just exclamation point, said the stranger, and grabbed his arm. He was aware that the sailor lining the rail of the ship were laughing at him. At the same time, his specialized sense detected an overpowering impression of money. He froze. The stranger let go and quickly... I should have silenced that. Hold on, I'll finish this paragraph. The stranger let go and quickly thumbed through a small black book he had taken from his belt. Then he said, "Hello?" Yeah. Alright, the first book of Color of Magic, which, like I said, is my favorite book. Well, it's one of my favorite series. It's the start of my favorite series. Discworld as a whole is my favorite series. So we've got Introduction to Ankmore Park and the start of our story, which I'm excited for. I've read this book not this one specifically, but this story 20 times, 30 times, a bunch of times. I can quite literally, you figure out a point and I can figure out where you are in a book, so I really like this book. Anyways, I hope you liked it. I know I fumbled on words and I'm going to do it through all of my readings, but I'm trying. Yeah, so I hope you enjoy the book. We'll have some more tomorrow night. I hope it was somewhat calming, but my voice wasn't as calming as I would have liked it to be, because this book gets me really excited. Anyways, I've been Endragh. This has been The Color of Magic by Terry Pratchett. I hope it brought a smile to your face, and I'll see you next time. Night-night, guys.